What if I told you about a guy who was a Super Bowl champion, a Pro Bowler? He led the league in receiving touchdowns, won Comeback Player of the Year, and was the Packers' best receiver? Just disappeared one day. That's exactly what happened to Jordy Nelson. One day he was a red zone assassin, Aaron Rodgers' most trusted target, and then just like that, he was gone. No farewell tour, no tearful press conference, just silence. So how did his career end so quietly? Where did he go? And where is he now? To figure this out, we gotta go to a family farm in Manhattan, Kansas, where Jordy Nelson was born and raised. Jordy Nelson didn't follow the conventional path to NFL stardom. There were no headlines touting his arrival, no recruiting buzz following him out of high school. He began as a walk-on at Kansas State, carving his way into the spotlight through sheer perseverance and blue-collar work ethic. And while he lacked elite measurables, as he wasn't the fastest or the most physically intimidating, he more than made up for that with his football IQ, effort, and a relentless drive to get better. That mindset would carry him all the way to the NFL, where he was drafted by the Green Bay Packers in 2008 and quickly became one of Rodgers' most trusted targets. Nelson's chemistry with Rodgers was uncanny, built on timing, trust, and countless hours of behind-the-scenes work. Together, they torched secondaries with back shoulder fades, deep post routes, and perfectly timed slants. At his peak, Nelson posted numbers that rivaled any of the game's elite receivers. 1,500-yard seasons, double-digit touchdowns, and highlight reel plays that usually swung the momentum of games. Yet, despite these gaudy stats, he often flew under the radar. In a league obsessed with flash, Nelson let his play do the talking. He was the guy who didn't seek the spotlight, but when them lights came on, he delivered time and time again. But as is often the case in the NFL, greatness can be fragile. One moment, you're at the top of your game. The next, everything changes. For Nelson, that moment came in 2015 during a preseason game when a non-contact knee injury that turned out to be an ACL tear sidelined him for the entire year. Though he returned in 2016 and even led the league in touchdown receptions, the injury marked a turning point. The burst wasn't quite the same. The separation, just a fraction of a second slower. And while he still produced, the Packers' offense was evolving. Younger, quicker receivers were waiting in the wings. And just a few seasons after his Pro Bowl peak, Green Bay released him. He had a brief stint with the Raiders, but the magic never fully returned. And just like that, Jordy Nelson walked away from football. Not with a farewell tour or a dramatic press conference, but with the same quiet grace he brought to his career. While other stars lingered in the spotlight, Nelson retreated to where it all began. Back at home, back at Kansas, back to the family farm, choosing a life of simplicity and authenticity over the glare of TV cameras. In a sport filled with noise and ego, Nelson's story is refreshingly different. It's about consistency, humility, loyalty, and how even the brightest stars can fade without fanfare. Now let's talk about what made Jordy Nelson so great. Jordy Nelson wasn't just a reliable receiver, he was a red zone assassin. When the field shrank and defenders clamped down, Nelson did his best work. From 2011 to 2016, few receivers in the NFL were more dangerous inside the 20-yard line than him. Whether it was a quick slant, a fade route, or the signature back shoulder throw from Aaron Rodgers, Nelson executed with surgical precision. Defenses knew what was coming and still couldn't stop it. And what made Nelson special wasn't just athleticism. It was elite timing, footwork, and chemistry with his quarterback. In the red zone, where space is limited and decision-making needs to be instant, trust between quarterback and wide receiver is everything. Nelson and Rodgers had that down to a science. They could make eye contact at the line and know exactly what play will be coming. That unspoken communication turned Nelson into one of the most efficient scoring threats of his era. His ability to create separation in tight spaces was rare. Nelson wasn't the fastest guy on the field, but his sharp route running and deceptive body control gave him just enough daylight. He knew how to use his frame to shield defenders, and he had an uncanny knack for positioning his body in the end zone. Even in double coverage, Nelson found ways to high point the ball and come down with it. From 2011 to 2014, he scored 43 touchdowns, many of them from within the red zone. In 2014 alone, he hauled in 13 touchdown catches, many of them under pressure in clutch moments. Packers fans vividly remember the back shoulder throws that looked impossible to defend. To the casual viewer, it seemed like magic. To Rodgers and Nelson, it was the result of hundreds of hours of practice, trust, and repetition. NFL analysts often pointed to Nelson's route precision as a major reason for his red zone dominance. He ran every route like it was a time dance. No wasted movement, no hesitation. That consistency gave Rodgers confidence to throw into tight windows, knowing Nelson would be exactly where he needed to be. And what's remarkable is that even when defenses game plan specifically to stop Nelson near the goal line, he still produced. That level of reliability in the red zone is what elevated him from just a good receiver to a top-tier NFL weapon. In his prime, Nelson was one of the league's most efficient and lethal red zone targets, consistently turning short fields into 6 points. He wasn't just scoring touchdowns, he was changing the game for Green Bay. And Jordy Nelson's career wasn't just filled with solid seasons, it was punctuated by unforgettable moments that etched his name into Green Bay Packers history. These weren't just highlights, they were game-changing plays, often the biggest stages, and they showcase exactly why Nelson was one of the most respected receivers of his era. One of his earliest defining moments came in a Super Bowl. The stakes couldn't have been any higher. And yet, it was the unheralded Nelson who rose to the occasion. He caught 9 passes for 140 yards and a touchdown against the Pittsburgh Steelers, helping secure the Packers' first Super Bowl win in over a decade. And despite a couple of early drops, he bounced back with poise, showing the world he could perform under the brightest of lights. That game turned Nelson from a role player into a rising star. The 2014 season was another high point. Nelson posted career highs across the entire board: 98 receptions, over 1,500 yards, and 13 touchdowns. He wasn't just consistent, he was explosive, routinely burning defenses for 50-plus yard touchdowns. His chemistry with Rodgers that year was nearly flawless. One of the most iconic moments came against the New England Patriots, when Nelson turned a simple slant into an 80-yard touchdown by splitting defenders and showcasing his underrated speed. It was a statement. Jordy belonged in that elite tier of NFL receivers. Then there was the legendary Comeback Player of the Year season in 2016. After tearing his ACL and missing all of 2015, Nelson returned with a vengeance, catching 97 passes for 1,257 yards and 14 touchdowns. It was a remarkable feat, considering many doubted he could return to form. But Nelson didn't just return, he dominated. He led the league in touchdown catches, reminding everyone of his red zone brilliance and deep threat ability. Perhaps one of the most memorable sequences of his career came in the 2016 NFC playoffs. In a thrilling win against the Dallas Cowboys, Nelson suffered multiple fractured ribs early in the game. He could have just shut it down, but instead, he suited up for the following week and fought through pain to help the Packers in a gritty performance against the Falcons. That kind of toughness resonated with fans and teammates alike. Jordy wasn't just skilled, he was clutch, and he was tough as nails. Each of these moments reflect not just talent, but character. Nelson's legacy isn't built on flash, it's built on consistency, courage, and clutch performances. Whether it was a Super Bowl catch, a toe-tap sideline grab, or a high-stakes red zone target, Jordy Nelson delivered time and time again when it mattered the most. In the NFL, one play can change everything. For Jordy, that moment came on August 23, 2015, in a meaningless preseason game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. On what looked like a routine route, Nelson planted his foot and immediately collapsed. No contact, no obvious collision, just a scary non-contact injury. That injury would soon be diagnosed as a torn ACL, and in an instant, the Packers lost their top receiver, and Nelson's career would never quite be the same. The news hit Green Bay hard. This wasn't just any injury. It was a devastating blow to the Packers' offense. Nelson had become the safety blanket, the deep threat, the red zone hammer, and the chemistry king with Aaron Rodgers. His absence in the 2015 regular season was glaring. The Packers' offense sputtered without him, and Rodgers, normally surgical, struggled to find rhythm with less experienced targets. Statistically, the drop-off was obvious. Without Nelson stretching the field and drawing coverage, Green Bay's explosive plays vanished. Defenses were able to key in on Randall Cobb and stack the box against the run. Rodgers' passer rating dipped significantly, and it became clear just how valuable Nelson was, not just for his stats, but for how he opened up the entire field. But Jordy's response to the injury showed exactly who he was. Rather than sulk or fade, he went to work. Rehabilitation became his full-time job. For an athlete in his 30s, coming back from an ACL tear is no small task. Critics wondered if he'd lost a step. Teammates, however, saw a man determined to return stronger than ever. And that's exactly what he did. In 2016, Nelson roared back, and he not only returned to the field, he led the entire NFL in receiving touchdowns. His 14 touchdowns that year proved that his game wasn't built on raw speed. It was built on timing, positioning, and football IQ. That season earned him the NFL Comeback Player of the Year award and reminded everyone that Jordy Nelson was still a top-tier talent. Yet the injury left its mark. Though he played well in 2016, Nelson's explosiveness was never quite the same. And when Rodgers went down in 2017 with a broken collarbone, Nelson's production collapsed. With backup quarterbacks unable to sync with his style, the numbers plummeted. And for the first time in years, he looked cooked. The 2015 ACL tear wasn't just a temporary setback, it was the beginning of the end. It cut into his longevity, reduced his leverage in contract negotiations, and ultimately led to his release from Green Bay. What should have been a slow, graceful twilight became a sharp and sudden decline. And for fans, that's the heartbreak, because Jordy Nelson's prime could have lasted even longer had he not been cut short by that one fateful step. When the story of the Green Bay Packers is told, Jordy Nelson's name deserves to be written in bold. He wasn't just a key player, he was a cornerstone of a generation. Over 10 seasons with the Packers, Nelson crafted a legacy built not just on stats, but on trust, loyalty, and clutch performances in a franchise filled with legends. Bart Starr, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. Jordy carved out his place with quiet greatness and undeniable production. By the time he left Green Bay, Nelson had caught 550 receptions for 7,848 yards and 69 touchdowns, all among the top marks in Packers history. In fact, he ranked second all-time in franchise receiving touchdowns, trailing only the Hall of Famer Don Hudson. That's not just impressive, that's elite company. And he did it without ever being the loudest guy in the room or the flashiest name in the headlines. What made Nelson's legacy even more meaningful was his connection with Aaron Rodgers. Few quarterback duos shared the chemistry that they did. From back shoulder throws to deep shots down the sidelines, their timing was pure perfection. And Rodgers himself has said Nelson was one of the smartest, most dependable receivers he's ever played with. That trust translated into touchdowns and wins, and forged a legacy that fans still talk about today. But Jordy Nelson's greatness wasn't just in the numbers. It was in the consistency. You could count on it. Third and long, red zone, 2-minute drill, you name it. It didn't matter. He would be there. Nelson was always where he was supposed to be. He didn't make excuses. He didn't complain when targets went elsewhere. He just got open and made plays. And for Packers fans, that workman-like mentality made him even more beloved. His presence in the locker room was equally impactful. Teammates praised his professionalism, humility, and leadership by example. He wasn't a rah-rah guy, but when Jordy spoke, people listened. That kind of quiet leadership is rare, and it helped shape the culture during the Packers' most competitive years of the 2010s. Even after his release in 2018, Nelson's relationship with the organization and the fans remained strong. When he retired in 2019, he signed a one-day contract to officially end his career as a Packer, a gesture that spoke volumes about his loyalty and the franchise's respect for him. Jordy Nelson may never make it to the Hall of Fame, but in Green Bay, he's already a legend. He wasn't just a product of the system. He was a Packers icon, the kind of player who embodied everything the team stands for: reliability, humility, toughness, and class. His legacy? Not just touchdowns and records, but trust, loyalty, and unforgettable moments in the green and gold. Jordy Nelson may have made headlines on game days, but it's his off-the-field choices that reveal his true character. Grounded and humble, he never sought fame, even during his peak NFL seasons. Nelson would return to Kansas to work on the family farm, staying connected to his roots. For him, football was a job, but faith, family, and hard work were a way of life. His teammates admired his leadership and authenticity, quiet and respected. Nelson's actions spoke louder than his words. He gave back through low-profile charity work and supported youth and foster care causes without seeking attention. After retiring in 2019, he stepped away from the spotlight entirely, returning to a peaceful farm life. In a league full of egos, Jordy chose simplicity over celebrity. His legacy off the field is as powerful as any highlight reel. Live with purpose, stay true to yourself, and give more than you take. Jordy Nelson's NFL career ended the way he played, quietly with humility. No need for the spotlight. He didn't chase headlines. He earned respect. From a small-town Kansas farm to Lambeau Field legend, Nelson built trust with Aaron Rodgers and delivered clutch consistency performances year after year. His red zone dominance, post-injury comeback, and leadership left a permanent mark on the Packers' legacy. And when it was over, he returned to the farm, choosing family and simplicity over fame. And while many athletes chase relevance after retirement, Jordy simply went home. To Packers fans, he remains more than a receiver. He's a symbol of a golden era. Jordy Nelson may have left the field, but in Green Bay, he'll forever be remembered as one of the greatest. Quietly, humbly, and like a true professional. As of where Jordy Nelson is now, well, he's closer to the NFL than you would think. Jordy Nelson is currently working as an appeal officer for the NFL, reviewing player suspensions and fines. He's part of a new team of former players who handle these appeals, ensuring fair decision-making within the league. But what if I told you about a guy who rushed for almost 10,000 career yards, scored 55 touchdowns, made 3 Pro Bowls, and set an NFL record for the most yards from scrimmage in a single season? Just disappeared one day. If you want to know what happened to Chris Johnson, just click right here.